Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started.
Great. Good morning, everyone. For taking the time of everyone's busy schedule to be here. We'll start. Everyone got the agenda ahead of time? Everyone's got that? Okay, so first up, did everyone get a chance to read the minutes from the last September meeting and May? Okay. And if so, do I have a motion to approve said minutes? We've got Jay here. Motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And is this on both?
Yes.
This is on both minutes?
Both minutes.
Okay. I will abstain from the September 9th. I was not present. And I'd say, unless there's any discussion, we can vote on both. Do we have to do a formal aye?
Oh, we can do all in favor. Yeah.
Okay. Everyone in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
It's through. My job is over.
Oh, and the ASL interpreter also asked before we say anything, or we can say our names first.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
proceed. Yeah.
All right. Sam Height. Motion passes. Sam Height. Can we kick it over to Luke for program updates?
Absolutely. So Luke Monahan, Program Director with PFML. So I can give an update of where we are in implementation. So we're feeling pretty good for 6 months out. We think things are right on track. The 3 wage reporting just wrapped up. We had the due date for wage reporting for third quarter was on Halloween. We're up to 52,000 registrations in the main paid leave portal. Relatively, I think from the last time we talked. We've received 55,000 wage reports this quarter. Because keep in mind, we had CPAs that are still filing on behalf of their employers. So we had record of those employers, even though they're not registered. We are going to be creating accounts for the unregistered employers for them. We sent out a letter of notice letting them know that. But 55,000 wage reports is where we would expect to be for employer coverage across the state. We have 51 million owed to us this quarter that we're still collecting to the state fund. We have 36 million that was allocated to private plans. So employers that are in private plans have 36 million. That's not from the 51. We expect 51 million to the state plan this quarter.
Q3.
Yep. So our trust fund right now, in terms of the money that is in the actual trust fund and earning interest, we have 148 million. But we expect that to grow with the recent transactions. We just had like a 30 million go into the bank yesterday. So we expect that to grow to about 186 million by the end of the quarter. So we're projecting that we're going to finish the year at the quarter 4 around 220 million, which puts us in a real good spot. Private plans, it looks like we have 1,758 applications with 1,720 employers approved. 25 denied, 3 canceled, meaning they canceled their own plan, and 10 private plan pendings. Processing times have not been an issue since we started private plans. We have not carried over between quarters at all. So those continue to be right on track for quick approvals. The 1,720 employers represent about 2 to 3% of the employers in the state. It represents 260,000 workers are covered under a private plan currently. That leaves 450,000 workers in the state plan. Because we have roughly 710,000 workers total across the state in quarter 3. So roughly a third of the workforce is covered in the private plans at this point, although it's only 2 to 3% of employers. These are the largest employers, obviously. The actuarial study is right on track. We're pretty excited to see preliminary results. The final report should be made public mid-December as planned. We'll send that around to the authority and put it online. The actuary is planning on flying up and giving you all a presentation at our meeting in January. So you can ask any questions you have. You can vote on starting the benefits either on time or delaying. There's no surprises that I've seen in the initial reports. I think we're in a good spot to start on time, but that information will be forthcoming and we'll get it to you as soon as it's final and public. The call center is still right on track. We're taking an average of 100 calls a day during wage reporting periods, less in between. There's still 0 wait time. So if you have people that still have questions from an employer level, please person to call, work through issues. Again, there's no wait time. They're open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. The implementation on claims with Applic is right on track as well. We've signed off on process flows. We're working on forms and letters currently, and they're working on their staffing levels. They've hired senior leadership, and they're hiring their full staff now to be ready for the May 1st rollout. I'm going to let Reggie, do you want to do the communication update?
Sure.
Sam, is there any chance you could get those numbers to us in written form?
The ones I just recited?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. That wasn't fast enough.
No, that's fine. I'll make sure I get it.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. This is Reggie. So on the public education campaign front, and just to remind folks what we're doing, we're now going to do the second phase of a statewide campaign, but this time the focus is on benefits. So phase one was just giving general awareness. Hey, paid family medical leave is here. This is what you need to do, you know, in terms of initial steps. But now phase two is here's benefits. Here's the things that, you know, you need to do. So the goal is to target both workers, employers, self-employed individuals about, you know, the benefit side of it. So as of today and throughout the rest of the fall, we're going to be working with Ethos to develop that messaging to figure out, okay, what are the things we are going to tell the public about the benefit side of things. And the goal is to launch the official campaign in January. The campaign will last about 6 months. So folks will be throughout January to July. We'll be seeing a mix of things from TV ads, radio ads, explainer videos that we'll have posted online. And those explainer videos will be translated as well. Ethos won't be doing the translation. We work with a company that we do translation services for, you know, anyway. So, yeah, so with that, I am happy to take any other questions. But
Yeah, this is Jay. What kind of budget do you have?
yeah, that's a good question. So we budgeted for this one, and after doing the whole competitive process, about 489,000. We haven't spent much, obviously, of course, because you know, the biggest cost probably throughout the whole campaign will be the TV ads and the radio ads, and Ethos has great relationships with a lot of different TV stations, so they'll obviously try to get the best price, knowing we only have this much for a budget. So yeah, that's where we are.
This is Jenny Hilton. You said TV stations. What other media where workers will actually be watching it?
So there will be radio ads also accompanying it too. But in terms of more outreach that we're going to do, it's going to also be a public relations campaign. So we're going to get out there and do webinars and things like that. But we're going to use the traditional, and social media will be another. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I totally forgot about that. Social media will be another one.
Streaming as well.
Okay.
Yeah, streaming.
Radio,
Yeah.
streaming,
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah. Totally forgot about social media. That makes sense. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, social media is definitely part of the campaign.
And then my last piece before we move to Sarah's presentation is I know people wanted an update on the group trust matter. So we did talk about it. If there is pending litigation, so again, can't go too far into the issue, but I can give some key points that are in public filings or will be in public filings, just to kind of give a rationale of where we're heading with the issue and why we're taking the position we are. So our read of the statute is that group trusts are not allowable in law. There is nothing in the statute that makes reference to self-insured group trust, similar to the workers' compensation law, where there's, I think, 18 pages of regulations that are specified for potential management risk pools. There's nothing in our statute that even hints at that. There was nothing that came up in rulemaking, nothing in the initial legislative session that suggested that group trusts were even considered as an option. The issue didn't come up, at least to my attention, until March, when companies were asking if group trusts were allowable. We said no. We put out the FAQ shortly after, including the company that pursued the group trust, after we told them no. Some considerations as we look at the issue: if group trusts were allowable, there'd be more administrative costs, at least for our staffing, to oversee. We'd need a regulatory framework in statute and in rulemaking. We'd probably need additional staff at the TFL team to provide that oversight. And keep in mind that's at the cost of people in the state fund, because that's where our budget comes from. We have $500 that we charge for private plan applications if they're approved, but that $500 would not cover the level of staffing that would need to provide that regulatory framework. So that bill would mostly be passed on to people in the state plan funding, essentially people to be in a private market that is underfunded. Another key thing to keep in mind, these are riskier risk pools. These are not.
Hey, Luke, we're having a hard time hearing you on, your voice is hard to hear. Reggie's voice was loud and clear, but yours is mostly mumbled. Can you get closer?
Yeah, we should be on the owl. Yeah.
I'll try to speak up, David. How's that?
Yeah, it's still the same. I mean, can you move the owl closer to you while you're speaking? Is that possible?
Not
No?
really.
Yeah, the owls are connected to the tables.
All right,
yeah.
never mind. We'll struggle through it.
I'll try to speak up. So they're inherently riskier risk pools. They're not insurance carriers licensed to do business in the state. There is no regulatory framework outside of the statute, which has none. And finally, keep in mind that this is a potential. If group trust markets were allowable, it took off, because it wouldn't just be this one company that would do it. I'm sure there's others that would. As there is in workers' comp, the special management risk pools represent about 20% of the business market. If our private plan opt-out rate increased by 20%, keep in mind that people that are being pulled out of the state plan are usually the employers of 15 or more, because they're more insurable. So you're pulling out a higher proportion of people paying 1% premium and leaving a higher proportion of people paying the 0.5% premium in the state plan. So the danger of allowing too much, creativity in the private market, creativity/risk, to moderate costs away from fully insured private plans, is that it puts the bill on small businesses who have the subsidy and are paying the 1%. So those are some key things to keep in mind. Like I said, we can't talk too much about it because there is pending litigation. Yes,
Sam, hi. Do we know of any bills that will be coming out this session? Probably pointing to stuff, the nuclear, get rid of this completely, all the way to, some substantive changes. I'm assuming there's some bills that we've been hearing about.
We have proposed legislation that would clarify this.
Okay. So an add,
details are still being.
right, specifically on the group part of it.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Kim, is there anything brewing that you know of legislatively about the group trust piece?
There is proposed legislation, yes.
There is. And
Yeah.
and do you know, I mean, are you able to summarize it? It basically would provide for the allowance of the group trusts, or what does it say?
I believe the title is an act to clarify the law. I don't remember exactly the title, but the details of it are still being worked out.
Okay, I mean, is it in favor of allowing group trusts, though, do you know?
No,
No,
It's not in favor of it. Gotcha. Okay. And do you know who sponsored it?
it's a department bill,
The department.
yes.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
we have other implementation questions before we start, Sarah. Sam, if you're good.
everyone good? Relatively good. Okay. All right. Sarah.
Thank you. Reggie, I just sent a request to be able to show my screen. I am Sarah Bryden. I'm the Claims Administration Division Director. I'm going to I oftentimes speak quickly. I'm going to try to speak more slowly than normal. Please let me know if I'm not doing a good job with that. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen and get into presentation mode so that we can talk about comparisons across various states. Here we go. All right, there had been a request from the authority to get some more information about how various states' paid family and medical leave programs operate in ways that are similar to and different from the main program, and sort of get a better understanding of where Maine is situated relative to other state programs. So that is what, at the highest level, what we're going to talk about today. There are a few different areas of focus that we are going to spend our time on. First, we're going to talk about funding mechanisms and rates. So at a high level, who is paying premium contributions, how it's calculated, those sorts of things, and we'll be looking at that across a number of states. And then we're going to look at that information alongside maximum benefits. So basically, what each state program, once they've collected their premiums, what they might be expected to pay out in terms of the maximum benefits that employees and workers in those states are entitled to. We are going to look at claim durations across states, claims by leave reason across states, and claim outcomes, so approvals, denials across states. A quick note, the program design information here, so the funding mechanisms, premiums, max benefits, is all gathered from a betterbalance.org. A Better Balance is an organization that does policy work in this area. Just to state the URL again, abetterbalance.org. It's a great resource. There's so much detail and information there if anybody wants to do further research and learning. For the purposes of this conversation, I've tried to strike the right balance between just enough in the weeds to be valuable without getting overwhelming, because it can get overwhelming. You
can share this with the authority after.
We can, yep, absolutely.
Central.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. So the level of detail can get to be a bit much. So I've tried to sort of strike that balance for us as a group. Another few things to keep in mind, there are almost no areas in this conversation where we're talking about apples to apples, especially when you start talking about several states at the same time. There's no, everybody in this room knows there's no federal paid family and medical leave program. There's no framework for consistency across states. Every state has been creative and has put together their own program based on policy considerations and the realities of what each state needs and wants. There's no repository for data across all states. A Better Balance is a great resource in terms of what each state's law requires, but in terms of claim data, things like that, there's no one single repository for that. And state legislators in various jurisdictions make their own decisions, define things differently. Different programs make different decisions about what to track, how to track it, what to publish in terms of their data. So again, there's very little apples to apples. We're just going to make the best with what we have in terms of information that's comparable across states. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that there's some level of variation. There's certainly variation, just generally speaking. There's also, at a high level, a bit of a difference between newer programs and older programs. So the programs that have had for example, their state temporary disability insurance program, bless you, in place for decades and decades. And, you know, and even, you know, California's paid family leave component has been in place since 2004. So, you know, folks in California are very familiar with it. They have a different financial posture. The program, their fund has been in place for a long time. And I think also, just generally speaking, broad strokes, decades ago, the policy frameworks were a little bit different. As states continue to roll out, you know, I think sometimes, oh, that's a great idea, let's do that here too. And so there's a little bit more similarity among states that are in the sort of the second phase of this policy iteration. So I just want to take a quick second and see if there's any questions before we get into the really fun leads and data. Okay. All right, so like I said, we were going to start out with funding. So you'll see 12 states here. A quick note, New York and New Jersey are not on this list. They are so different as to be not really all that useful for this conversation. But what I've done here is I've listed out these 12 states in order from smallest premium to largest premium, just to give you a sense of the amount of range. So for every state, obviously you're going to see the state, the total premium. So that when I say total premium, what that means is the premium contribution for both medical leave and family leave. Some states have one fund, some states have two funds. This is again another example of why I didn't put everything on the slide. It would just be ink everywhere. So so there is some nuances that I'm just going to talk to you and explain, you know, why you're not seeing all of the minutia on every slide. So the total premium is the amount of premium across all leave reasons. The parenthetical, the limit is the statutory limit. So for example, you know, we have a 1% premium currently, and the statutory limit is 1%. Colorado, for example, is currently at 0.9%, and their statute says the premium can never, or at least until it gets changed, the premium cannot exceed 1.2%. The next column is the wage cap. So if you are, for example, in Connecticut, you're looking at a 0.5% premium, that would be up to the Social Security wage cap. So if you are earning, for example, $300,000 a year, it's not 0.5% of all $300,000. It's up to the amount of money that's subject to Social Security wage as well. And then that last column is, I find it really interesting, the differences across states in terms of who pays the premium. So the District of Columbia is, and there's so many of these little like, little factoids for, you know, like the most boring game of trivia you ever played. But the District of Columbia is the only jurisdiction where all of the premiums are paid by the employer. So the employees don't pay anything in DC. But you have a few states that are employee paid only. So Connecticut, California, Rhode Island, California and Rhode Island are older programs. So that's another example of, you know, this employee-employer split has sort of gotten more and more popular as states have joined the fold. So in most states, including Maine, of course, the premiums are split between the employee and the employer. I'm also not.
Could I ask a quick question or a quick clarifier?
Go ahead.
The main limit of 1% is for how long? And could that be put in that chart?
Oh, so it's 2028.
2028. So the limit of 1% until through 2027. At which point it's a floating rate up or down. So there is no statutory limit of the rate after that.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I just think that's an important factor to.
Yeah, and legislators could choose to continue a limit, could choose to change it, could choose any number of things.
Yeah, the law can always be taken into account.
And Sam Heiss, do we know from talking with these other states, why they didn't put a limit in?
That's a great
Or was
question.
that a point of contention?
So I did not go into like statutory history of every state. Again, this is all pulled from a Better Balance .org site. That's a so who knows why legislators do what they do. But that is a very interesting question. Any other questions before we forge ahead? All right. So this slide has same 12 states in the same order. And here, like I said, we're going to be looking at that total premium and layering on this next piece of information, which is the wage replacement rate. So as you'll see in that first column, the states with 2 asterisks, those are states where the benefits have not started yet. So in terms of, premiums collected, benefits going out the door, this whole solvency conversation and posture, Delaware, Minnesota, Maryland, and Maine, this is a lot of speculation and forecasting and prediction, but the benefits haven't begun in those 4 states, including ours. So again, we have the total premium listed. And we are, sort of middle of the pack at 1%. The wage replacement, again, this is another example of, I could have done a whole slide just about all how, this gets calculated in each state. But the most important thing to keep in mind, or I think the most important concept that I wanted to convey here is that in almost every state, the wages are replaced in a way that involves at least 2 tiers. So the first tier would be a certain amount of earnings that somebody has received getting replaced at a higher percentage, and then any overage, so anything that somebody has earned that's over that first tier, getting replaced at a slightly lower wage replacement rate. And in all cases, topping out or capping at a maximum weekly benefit amount specific to each jurisdiction. So the reason why most states have chosen to do a wage replacement approach based on tiers is fundamentally designed to make sure that lower wage earners get a more generous benefit relative to what they're used to making. So in almost all of these, and constantly with the asterisks, almost all of these states, every state has decided to approach this in a slightly different way. But generally speaking, the tiers are tied to the state average weekly wage in a particular state. So looking at, state average weekly wage being just generally speaking, what do people make in a certain state? A lot of it is, tier 1 is half of the state average weekly wage. And then the overage would be at that subsequent wage replacement rate. Minnesota has decided, again, with the trivia, Minnesota has decided to do 3 tiers. So up to half of the Minnesota state average weekly wage is replaced at 90%. Then the second half of that state average weekly wage amount is replaced at 66%. And then anything above that is replaced at 55%. But a person in Minnesota is never going to get a weekly benefit amount greater than $1,422. So the level of complexity can get to be kind of a lot. I will say Rhode Island, again, is, in all of these slides, there's going to be at least one state that's not following the general rule. Rhode Island is a flat 60%, and that's increasing to 75% by the year 2028. And California, as you'll see, it says between 70 and 90%. They have a whole, I mean, it's like looking at a tax table. They have it's an older program. It has a different framework, and it's different. So as you'll see with the max weekly benefit, there's a whole range of dollar amounts. And I think, so there's a couple ways to look at that. There's a lot of it is tied to the state average weekly wage in each state. It's not necessarily, so in our program, the maximum weekly benefit amount is equal to the state average weekly wage. Some states have chosen to tether those two things together, not necessarily in a, A equals B way, but a percentage or some other way that tracks along with that. And so what you'll see is not only do different workforces in different states earn on average different amounts, but also different states have made policy decisions around being more generous, less generous, and there's an innumerable number of reasons for that. So as you'll see, Delaware is a $900 benefit, so nobody's getting more than $900 a week in Delaware. Connecticut is also under $1,000. We are, middle of the pack, maybe a little bit lower. The West Coast states, Oregon, Washington, California, are a little bit higher. Again, that might have to do with cost of living or any other number of variables. I think this is the last grid slide. So the same same list of 12 states, same total premium amount. Here we're going to be talking about, so the max weekly benefit is included on the slide, but what I wanted to show here is in the unlikely event that somebody in one of these states takes the most time they're entitled to take and gets the most money in a week that they're entitled to get, what would the financial impact be to that state fund? So it's also another opportunity for us to see where our program is situated relative to other states in terms of entitlement. So it's us in Delaware at 12 weeks, and every other state's program provides a richer benefit in terms of the amount of time a worker can take out of for leave. The asterisk, again, it's so fascinating to see what different states have chosen to do to tackle this problem. The asterisks are showing states that have a maximum entitlement time that is dependent on a worker's circumstances. Most often that has to do with pregnancy complications. So in the states that say 14 weeks with an asterisk, generally that is, you get 12 weeks of leave, except if you are a worker who's dealing with complications related to pregnancy, you get an extra 2 weeks. I believe it is Maryland that has basically an entitlement amount, and then also you get more if you are dealing with a child who's in the NICU, things like that. So there are some states that are quite generous. If you're in California and you need medical leave, you could theoretically get up to 52 weeks of leave. If you are in Washington, you could get 18 weeks of leave. Massachusetts at 26. So there really is a broad spectrum of entitlement amounts across the various programs. And so it's just the rest of the slide is just simple math in terms of max leave time, max weekly benefit. And so this last column is the most money the program could potentially have to pay out to a single applicant in a benefit year in each of these states. And so part of what I wanted to show with this slide is the loose correlation between the higher dollar amounts over here and the total premiums over here. So, if California could potentially be on the hook for $87,000 for one employee, it does make sense that they have a 1% premium. Tina.
Tina Bonnie. I just am a little confused by why Delaware and Maine are both 12 weeks. Delaware's max weekly benefits less than Maine's, but their max is more.
Let's see. Delaware, 900.
And it's 16. No, I can't read that, but I was looking over here.
Yeah, well, I apologize for my math error.
Yeah, the main one
Yeah.
was right, the Delaware one.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm so sorry. It's so the 16,000 is the DC. Yeah. Just
Oh, okay.
yeah. No, it's a typo. I
Oh, I
apologize.
see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I just wanted to make sure I understood the term.
Yeah,
That's all.
you do.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
catch though, I'm impressed.
Yeah, this is Jay. Can you make a generalization about fund solvency and benefits or benefits as a percentage of collections or whatever for these states?
So I don't feel qualified to make a general statement about solvency of various states. I do know, I think it was Washington had to delay their program when they first rolled out because of solvency concerns. But as a general matter, I don't have the information that would be required to make broader statements of that.
And that might be a good question for the actuary in January, because he does have a national perspective. He's in several states. But keep in mind, some programs like California's been running for decades at this point. Massachusetts been at least 5 years.
Sam, I adding to that, sorry. No, that's good. Quick, I'm sure you have the data. I know one of the slides said that 2 of the states had initiated this yet, but could we get the dates that they were initiated in each of these states too? I'm just curious, like I didn't know California was
Yeah,
a decade.
absolutely. Yep, I can have that.
That was my exact question.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yep. Thank you. When I'm not in presentation mode, I'll say that.
I got it. Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. All right. What's the number?
10,800. So they're less than Maine. So they do lower than us. Yeah.
Their program is also just philosophically much less generous than ours.
Yeah.
You have to essentially meet their eligibility requirements for federal FMLA before you can even get a benefit. It's just a fundamentally different posture. Okay. All right, so we are moving away from the Excel spreadsheet and we're moving now into claim data across states. And again, so now we are also moving away from a lot of information that's available through Other Balance and available through various states' program design, and moving a little bit more towards what states choose to publish. Again, it's a little bit tricky not having apples to apples. Going to do what we can to sort of call out where the similar and consistent information is available and where we're looking at slightly different terms or components of data. So to start, we're going to take a look at Connecticut. And also I want to say, having just talked about the most impactful financial impacts to different states, somebody taking 52 weeks of leave in California. Part of what we're going to be turning to here is showing actual claim data, which illustrates that most people taking paid leave do not take all of the leave they're entitled to. So as an illustrative example, Connecticut offers 12 weeks of leave. If a worker is dealing with pregnancy complications, there's an additional 2 weeks available, so a total of 14 in the most generous scenario. Connecticut, in their most recent annual report that's available online, is actually publishing duration assumptions versus actual experience. But we're still gonna take a look at it. So their medical leave duration assumption is 7 weeks. So again, not 14, not 12, but 7. Their bonding leave duration assumption is 7.3 weeks. Their leave to care for a family member, their assumption is 6.1 weeks. And then for safe leave, and again, that's, leave to deal with situations of violence or abuse for a worker or family member. That leave duration assumption is 2.4 weeks. And you'll see sort of over the arc of the next few slides, generally, these numbers relative to each other bear out across various states. Oregon is also a state that offers 12 weeks of leave with an additional 2 weeks for pregnancy complications. And what they have chosen to publish in terms of their claim data is an overall average claim duration of 8 weeks. And then, as you'll see by leave reason, they are publishing median leave durations, because of course. So for medical leave, their median is 7 weeks. For bonding leave, their median is 12 weeks. For caring for a family member, their median leave duration is 5 weeks. And for safe leave, it's 9 weeks. So 9 weeks is a lot bigger than 2.4 from Connecticut. One thing that I will say is that across the available data, I think it's important to keep in mind what the N is. So safe leave claims are a very, very, very small percentage of claims in the states that do cover it. So so I saw this number and thought, oh, that's quite an outlier, but also it's potentially explainable by the fact that there simply are probably not very many safe leave claims. But again, it's in most of these leave reason scenarios, folks are not taking 12 or 14 weeks of leave. It also does intuitively to me make sense that bonding leave is up towards the higher end of the entitlement, just the nature of why folks are out. If you have a new child and can take 12 weeks, that makes a lot more sense versus, not every medical situation is going to require 12 weeks.
Sam, Hyde.
Yeah.
Is there, when we're looking at comparisons, is there some standardization in the coding from state to state?
No.
Okay. Because, I mean, it's only, the data's only good at what is input.
For sure.
So it's whoever's entering that in, but there's no standardization.
Yeah.
A through one. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's going to come up again on another slide because it's even more pronounced in it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Huge. Yeah, Doug.
Doug Cutmore.
Yeah.
For this slide, Oregon, is this actual or is this assumption?
Actual.
So at a 12-week max duration, the median bonding leave,
That's what
is that basically they're taking, everybody that takes bonding leave is taking the full amount of time?
So
Is that a true assumption?
that's what they published. And I think that's so I'm not sure how they're coding their claims when it is a pregnancy, like the worker is the birthing parent, and also I don't know how they're handling that in terms of, there might be some folks who had the 14 weeks available and chose not to. So there's a lot of, to Sam's point, how are you coding that? Was unclear. So
Michelle, great. So I'm assuming the people that are publishing assumptions are the newer programs and actual, or is that?
So, yeah, I think that there might be a correlation there. I will say this claim data, we're not going through all 12.
Oh,
we're through 5. And so,
but yeah, 2 and 3, I think, helpful to know when it started.
Yeah.
To understand that data a little better.
Yeah, and I will say the older states, and that's great feedback. I should have put the
should have
but, yeah. So Rhode Island, California, New Jersey, and New York are like the like the old guard. And they don't publish their claim data in the same way that some of the newer folks have chosen to do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Kim. Connecticut is about 5 years ahead of us, I think.
During the pandemic, so 5 years.
Yeah. Okay. And my take on the assumption was that they didn't publish their actuals, but this is the data that they use to project their to forecast going forward, and it's based on their actuals, but they're not publishing their actuals. So, thank you. That's my takeaway anyway.
It's a fair
Yeah.
assessment, yeah. Okay. So Washington and Washington is an example of a state that chooses to say, okay, you can take 12 weeks of medical leave, you can take 12 weeks of family leave. If your life circumstances in your benefit year are such that you have a lot going on and you have a reason to take medical and family leave, then your aggregate leave would be 16. So you can't take 12 plus 12 is 24. You can take 16 from the 2 buckets. And also you get the 2 extra weeks for pregnancy complications. So, and Massachusetts also takes a similar approach in terms of you have X amount of medical, X amount of family, or if you have a really complicated year, then you can get, an aggregate larger amount. So Washington has chosen to publish their average claim duration generally, which is 7.2 weeks. And then by leave reason, they are also doing averages. So 7 weeks for medical leave, 8 weeks for bonding leave, 6.3 weeks for family care, and then 4 weeks for qualifying exigency. As a quick reminder, qualifying exigency leave is leave for when you as a worker have a family member who's in the military and they are getting deployed on short notice. And then you as a worker need to go to the bank or, go get a will drawn up or, deal with things and make arrangements in that sort of category. Also to spend time with your family member when they're on active recuperation leave. And then Massachusetts, again, 12 weeks of family leave available, 20 weeks of medical leave, and if you are taking leave for both categories, then a total of 26. Massachusetts has chosen to be a little bit more high level and less granular in terms of, reporting their average claim duration at just the aggregate medical family level. So there's no bonding and care of a family member because they've made a different choice. So again, here, 8.66 weeks across all their claims, 8.57 weeks for medical leave, and 8.85 weeks for family leave. Again, it does not appear that folks in Massachusetts are taking 26 weeks of leave very often. So the folks in Massachusetts have clearly chosen to make that available for situations where workers really do need that amount of time. But the circumstances of most claimants' lives doesn't require that. Pie charts. All right. This slide is, so this is the same 5 states we just talked about. And what I wanted to show here is that there is, generally speaking, some level of, I don't want to say consistency, but generally speaking, in each state, medical leave claims are about half of the total claim volume, a little bit more. Connecticut definitely is, visually the outlier in terms of their medical leave claims being a little bit more than compared to states. That again, to our earlier point about, okay, well, if a claim comes in as pregnancy, how is that getting coded? Is that getting coded as medical leave, or is there some sort of claim coding process around pregnancy to bonding and all of those decisions that each program can make? But generally speaking, medical leave claims are approximately maybe a little bit more than half of the total claim volume. Family care, so caring for a family member with a serious health condition, that's the gray pie slice, pretty consistently about 12 to 15%. In the jurisdictions that have safe leave as a covered reason, that's Colorado and Oregon, 1% of claims, almost 2% in Colorado, but not a lot of claims. And then the exigency in Washington, it's so small, it doesn't show up visually. There's just very, very, very few folks that are taking paid leave for qualifying exigency. And then, so this slide is same 5 states, intended to show that the approval rates are, again, you know, not exactly the same across all 5 states. And certainly, you know, Sam, this is the slide I was thinking about when you were asking your question about whether there's consistency of coding. There sure is not. So trying to define what is a denied claim is really tricky. So, for example, let's say somebody tries to file a claim and they get halfway through the process and they just give up. That's considered a denied claim. If they submit their claim, but then they never send in a piece of paperwork to support it, that, you know, how we treat that, all the way through the scenarios where somebody submits a claim, sends in all the information, a case manager actually looks at it and says, nope, this is not provable. So there is some variation around what is considered denied versus approved. Certainly each of these 5 jurisdictions has, you know, its own definitional, you know, criteria for what is even needed to be an approved claim. So there's that as well. But generally speaking, you know, less than a quarter of claims get denied. I also wanted to use this as a visual reminder that in no state, and certainly not in Maine, in no state is, you know, is the reality going to be that 100% of claims get approved. So, you know, there's criteria in place, there's a review process, and in order to get paid leave benefits, a worker has to actually be meeting all those criteria.
Yeah, this is Jay. Do you have a slide that shows a correlation between average weeks taken overall versus maximum benefit?
I do not have that slide, but that's a really good question. Yeah.
Easy to put together.
Jenny.
Yeah, I'm Jenny Fulton. I'm curious, will you have a slide on any possible fraud or fraudulent claims or findings of that? And also separate, but kind of important, will Maine be paying attention to how they create statistics so that they aren't a pie chart from hell for future?
Yeah. Right. That's a great question. So in terms of fraud, so I don't have, so this is actually my last slide. So, we're at the last slide, so I don't have a slide, like you're talking about or asking about for fraud. I will say, just generally speaking across this, field, the fraud that happens is identity theft, organized crime. That's much more common than one person saying, oh, where can I find it? Like it's identity theft that's really the big problem. And AFLAC is, well, they have existing processes and they're going to be applying those processes to making sure that when a claim comes in, it's actually for a new worker, and it's for the person who filed the claim, before they even get to the matter of have the doctor fill out a form.
So there isn't an incident or a noted incident of employees working to game the system that people seem to be very concerned about.
Right, it's a huge perception concern, and it doesn't bear out in terms of actual. I mean, I'm sure I'm not going to say that's never happened, but in terms of these programs, broadly speaking, the actual what different states and AFLAC, who is currently running the administration for the Connecticut program, their experience is that the much more significant risk to a program is the identity theft, larger scale
Criminals being criminals. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And they have processes in place to identify those. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome. I'm sorry, your other question.
I want to make sure Maine's data is going to be well coded and easy to understand and articulate not only to us, but also to the public and in comparison with other states like the model.
Yes, yes. So that's actually a fantastic segue. You're welcome. Yeah. I think the next agenda is a discussion of the data that's going to get tracked. So what I just am sharing on the screen right now is from the statute. This is all the data elements that are required by statute for our administrator to capture and report on each year. And if I can make that smaller, currently. So yeah, so these are the data points that Aflac will be capturing and reporting on for us, because they have to, and because it'll be really valuable for us to be able to review and keep tabs on how claims administration for our program is running and what we might need to pay attention to and be aware of. And I think the agenda also called for, authority members to discuss any additional data points that they might have an interest in having us captured as well.
And I'll just add that one of our requirements when we went out to RFP for the claims administration was robust data collection and specifically dashboard for administration to pull that in real time. Same thing with our revenue system. We certainly believe in data-based decision making, and that's been important for the FAST system, and that was a requirement for any claims administrator we hired. That impressed us with many things, but once our data collection and the dashboards that Sarah and I and the rest of the female staff will have access to pull macro reports in real time. So.
Good question. How do the private plans data get integrated? Does that get reported to Aflac? So
we're going to be developing the first data reports for private plans are actually going to be due, unless somebody's running a plan now. I think there's only 5 plans running in the state currently. Most people are starting that at the same time we are, May 1st, 26. So the first data reports on the private plans are going to be due July 1st, 2027. So you have a full year's of claims data. Our goal right now is we're going to be building out the FAST system so that carriers can drop in macro reports into the FAST system, the claims system, the contribution system. So if you have a private plan, the carriers will be doing aggregate reports for their, let's say has however many clients, they'll create a report for that plan that they've sold, drop it into the FAST system. Self-insured will do it individually, drop it into the FAST system, and then we have the raw data that we can, we have data resources within DOL that can hopefully help us present that private plan information as a comparison with the state plan information as well.
Thank you. In regards to the demographics there, including occupation, will those occupations be standardized into categories that align with seat allocations on this board so that we know immediately and can draw conclusions and know what we're doing and who we're representing and whether they're partaking?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that, so my understanding is that Aflac can categorize in any number of ways. So we can certainly ask them to provide the bucket, right? And then talk to them about ways to aggregate and disaggregate data so that we can get at the questions that you're talking about. I will say in terms of the implementation process, we have not gotten to this topic yet. So, but that's a really good thing to keep in mind.
And a follow up again, Jenny Hill, but so my seat includes seasonal. Mm-hmm. I see someone else who represents seasonal as well, right? So just making sure that we have the distinction and that nothing gets overlooked and nothing gets, overblown. I think it's important to be able to dig down differently.
Yeah, and tell that story about what's happening.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're all very concerned about how it affects our businesses and our staff.
Yep, that makes sense.
So where you're going to get a this is Tina Bonney, where you're going to get a complication there is, for example, I would say probably half of my personal team at my company is a second job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, there's going to be a point in time where your data gets too granular to be effectively gathered. So,
Yeah.
just, you know,
Yep, and I'm just thinking,
it's a common thing in Maine to have a second job.
for sure. So I'm thinking about, acknowledging that the AFAC implementation work has not yet tackled reporting specifically and, in the weeds. I am thinking about how part of their, for example, part of their, claim intake process is going to be, when the worker either goes online or calls their call center to set up a claim, part of that conversation is going to be, okay, well, which employer or employers are you taking leave from? So if it's somebody that has 2 jobs, then part of that intake process is going to be, are you taking leave from both of those jobs? So they will have captured in their system, this is the scenario where somebody has 2 jobs and is taking leave from 2 jobs. So we'll be able to use that in data reporting as we feel it's needed. To put it in a different way, pretty much everything that shows up in Apple in the Aflac system can be reported on. Question.
So when it comes to, you mentioned this earlier, Sarah, when it comes to like using denials as an example, will Aflac have the opportunity to break those down so we know if it's an eligibility denial versus a medical denial versus a incomplete file,
Yep.
et cetera?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had that conversation with them. Yeah. It's about the preciseness of denials, like denial is very.
Yeah.
Right. If you're not a program, it's like a denial is not necessarily good or bad.
Yeah.
It's accuracy is the important piece. Yeah.
Question. So what's the leeway on this? If this is in statute, as far as what we contracted for Aflac to aggregate for us, do we have the right to say now collect all this other stuff too?
We can certainly ask if you have, if that's
Okay.
what you want to track and it's within their system. They're definitely willing to look at other metrics.
Could the link to this specific section be sent out? So maybe I already was, I apologize.
No, we want to.
Denise, but just curious if staff in the department, there was anything beyond what's in the statute that you think, that you've decided you want to have like flag, I'm just curious, or if you thought we did a really good job, we got all of them.
I mean, this is certainly comprehensive. I think the metrics I'm interested in is state plan versus private plans, like what's the difference there? Averagely, I use of undue hardship, percentage of undue hardship, but I think it's going to be a really big metric for us, completely new process. So there's certainly other things that will inherently be collected that I'm sure run top reports.
Yeah, the only other thing that comes to mind for me is data that tells the story of how effective the customer service is. So making sure that calls are getting us data that shows how many people call with a question and end that call with an answer. How long are you on hold? That sort of thing. Because it's so important to make sure that they are providing stellar customer service for workers when they're going through a stressful time. So that's going to be one of my areas of focus.
Yeah, another question, Rachel, but will the data be broken up? I know the focus is on who as the team member or employee is availing themselves of the service and of this earned benefit, but will there be a way to break it down so that we understand the size, the scope, and category of the employer? Because I think it would be important for us to be able to understand who's having difficulty, who's not, and sometimes that is based on what the setup of the employer is.
Yeah, I can ask. I know, you can't see the mental memory that I have, mental image I have in memory, but I know, one of the things that Connecticut publishes in their annual report is, claim usage by county. And so if Aflac can provide that data, I would not be surprised if they can also provide data that, claim usage by other metrics.
Well, it's a great question because we capture the employer size and fastest, so they
Yeah.
can have something, yeah, potentially.
Yeah, we use API.
Supplies, employers, by industry, right?
But we would actually have like, are you taking leads from this company? Like it's already a direct data point that's being pushed to us from the
Right.
SaaS system. And we have the size that the company imputes
Right.
when they do their wage reporting, so it's actually direct data.
Right.
Yeah.
You know if that county data is by residence or by lawyer?
It's a great question. I mean, I just saw the really cool map, and that's what stuck in my memory. But I could certainly do more digging. Yep.
And the reason I asked is because I think it was very important as we move further with what types of information support resources that were provided to whom, and who needs it,
Yeah.
and who doesn't.
Although I do think the default they're going to be tracking correctly, less than the chain over. So they'll at least be able to have this card. Yeah.
They'll can't,
They can't not.
They
do
can't
that.
not do that, yeah.
Great question.
Oh, just got something from the interpreter said it's very difficult to hear people. So I'd probably just elevate voices if, yeah.
Questions?
Yeah, I have a comment. This is David. I think this is excellent, and I really enjoyed the presentation. The one thing I would really like to see is when these other states started paying benefits. I think that's valuable information. I think we should look at this every year.
Thank you so much. I will add the start dates for each state to the slide deck before I send it out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Is it written in statute? Okay, Sam, is it written in statute? I mean, obviously it shows this report, but in terms of the financial reporting to you, that's on DOL to keep that going, meaning dollars in versus dollars expected moving forward in solvency and
Yeah,
is that in there?
it's part of the annual reporting that's going to be happening to the actuary. So in December, you're going to get a very.
Right, but moving forward,
There's gonna be
is there going to be an
annual
actual actuarial report every year or is it just going? Okay.
Yeah, every year, it's a part of the statute to do an actuarial report every year on the solvency and
Okay.
health of the fund. You'll get your first taste of that when we make it public in December. And in January, you'll get asked questions, and then that will be rolling out every year, because that helps us set the premium rate
Right.
for the next year.
Right.
There will be robust, financial reporting that you'll see
Okay.
starting in January.
And Doug Codmore, if I can add, full financial statements will be published in the state's annual comprehensive financial report, which will identify the paid and family medical leave fund and its own column. So that will all be available as well.
Fine. Anyone else? Anything else? Going once? Okay.
Tara Palmer, I just had a quick follow-up question. When you were spouting all those numbers at the beginning, can you just give me a sense of whether you feel like most of the employers in the state have applied and paid?
Yeah, I mean, I think our registration numbers are pretty close to what we would expect. Definitely our wage reporting numbers, the 55,000 is pretty close to full compliance, I would imagine. I'm sure we're missing some. In terms of wage reporting non-compliance, it's dropping every quarter. I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I would say compliance is 3 quarters in excellent. I'm actually further ahead than I was hoping to be with compliance.
And then what's the mechanism to follow up when people don't pay or companies don't pay?
Oh, so we have a full collections process. Tim's not here, he's our finance director, but he can definitely go through that in a future meeting. But we do have a collections process that, could go as far as civil action in court if people aren't paying. But it starts with penalties, failing to pay notices, rights to appeal, calling people, collection calls.
After what, like 60 days, like they
Like we
don't
have
file
to
it
get started on Q1. Like
Right.
we're just starting collecting calls in Q1 now.
Okay.
And we haven't gotten to civil action yet. But the,
Maybe we could talk about when we send the letter.
Yeah.
At the end of the quarter.
yeah, so people have, up until the last day that, the quarter following a close to pay. They'll get a failure to remit letter roughly 2 weeks after that. So if you haven't filed your wage reports, by this quarter is Halloween. So some employers who have not filed for Q3 will get a letter in about 6 days, saying, hey, you haven't paid. Roughly 30 days after that, if they still haven't paid, and the letter says you need to pay within 15 days, roughly 30 days after that, if they still haven't paid, they're gonna get a notice saying they've been assessed a fine for non-payment. They have the rights to appeal. If they disagree, that runs 15 days after that, but if you give them an extra time period after that for not timely appeal. And then after that whole process, after the appeal rights have run its course, either through, a denial of an appeal or they didn't file an appeal, we start the collections process, first with calls and then a certain number of calls. And then finally, if that fails, it goes to collections activities to report.
So if an employee of that employer were to file a claim and it's been discovered that there was no payment made by the employer, would that claim be denied?
We are gonna verify wages and other, methods if they have a non-compliant employer and then change that employer. But we think that if it's through no fault of the employee, which is not, wage reporting, they still need to be providing coverage if the employer is not compliant.
Okay. And if this is Kim, if I could just add, as far as the base period where we look at wages, the most recent quarter is not part of that base period, so it's actually looking back to the year. It's like 4 to 16 months prior. It's not the most recent quarter. So there is some time, and that was intentional to minimize the situations where that might happen.
Going back to the data that you got from other states or found, in this discussion. When I know the fraud issue was mostly identity theft and other criminal activity, not necessarily by employees, but were there any instances or data with regards to employer clients or employer issues or anything that would be the employer at fault? Was that anything you looked for, and was that anything that was found?
That is not information that I've seen, that states have chosen to make available. I don't know if that is an indication that employers are perfect and they don't do anything wrong. I don't, it's just not a topic that I've seen, covered on various state websites or in broader conversations about, the family benefit program.
Yeah, most states have what they call an annual report. They provide it, annually with the data, and all the focus that I've seen as well has been on claims data. And even most states they don't have any reporting fraud. In some states actually choose not to report on fraud. They think it undermines the whole process of fraud, which is like, as the administrator, what they're trying to do, so you don't publish that, so more people do that. So there's actually states that choose not to, and then Washington getting their press. So why are you publishing the fraud data? It's like, we don't want to give away what they're doing, so that more people do it. But so the annual reports that I've seen nationally are focused on the claims data that's there provided. I agree. I have not seen states that do robust process or data reporting on other topics like fraud or employer compliance. For better or worse, like I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's what I've seen in other states as well.
What about me? What they focus on is gotta be that information, and if so, for both employer and employee, or one, or
Well, I think we certainly have access to employer compliance with our, I'm looking right now at how many people have filed wage reports in the state as of 2 hours ago. So I have access to that data. There is a certain, we don't know. There's actually no good metric of how many employers are in the state that are subject to PFML. SUI is the only other benchmark, but PFML is so much broader, including domestic work or nannies. There's no actual, and Connecticut had said this to us early on, we know that we're at 98% of compliance rate compared to state unemployment, but PFML is so much broader than that, and it's an unknown number, and it's something people have asked us for years, and they were like, we're never going to know what that number is because there's no way to track it. Yeah.
Tina Bonney. So I went online to my portal this morning or yesterday before this meeting, and I have a payroll service who submits my reports for me, and I have had discussions before that I think my ability to document what my payroll provider is submitting is difficult to export out of the portal. And I'd love to see a printed report I could just print for my documents versus having to scroll through the actual submission each page. Almost impossible to print. But it's all in there so I can reference it. So it's being saved as data. So, but I noticed this time that my, do I have 15 or more employees reporting was included inclusively within my data report for third quarter, not as a separate item to be asked. And I didn't receive a notification to file it. So my payroll provider files my reports. So I didn't realize that I should be filing it within the report that my payroll provider provides. Does that make sense?
So the answering of the employer size is within the third quarter wage report.
Yes.
Yes.
It's inclusive as opposed to a separate request. And so for me to file it, I have to go into my report that my payroll provider has already filed and edit it, which is a little like, I don't know, I'm hesitant to edit it because my payroll provider already filed it. And, you know, I mean, mine didn't change. So it's not like a big deal for me personally, but I'm worried that if people did have a change, they maybe don't know to file it. Since, yeah. So I was a little worried about that when I saw that it was inclusive and not separately asked.
Yeah, I think my worry is in the past.
Well, but no one did it anyway. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure it was done anyway, right? Because I didn't do mine. I'll just say I didn't do mine because I didn't know. But mine didn't change, so it's not a big deal. So it was then just concluded that mine didn't change, and I got a letter saying.
I think our hope is setting up that way that employers.
I have a very large payroll company who never asked me about it. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I'm at a loss. Why would you need to, this is David, why would you need to resubmit it if your payroll company already submitted it?
I think they answered that question correctly. I think it's, you know.
No, it wasn't answered. No, it's empty. Yeah, I can show you.
And I think, if I am remembering correctly from conversations that we had when the past folks were putting this together, part of the thinking was that a payroll company would have all the data points needed to answer the question.
And my payroll company would not answer that for me. They required me to do it. Like they wouldn't.
Before they submitted a wage report.
No, originally last year, like I had to do it, not them.
I didn't think they accepted the wage report unless that cost.
Maybe I misinterpreted, but it's like one of those things where it's like highlighted on the bottom with a little black bar, and they're both like gray.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'll show you mine,
Yeah.
and we can look at it. Yeah. Well, that's. Mine didn't change, and then it was inferred and then it was just. So maybe I'm misreading the report. It's possible. Yeah. Yep. I mean, this is simple, and you can show me, and I'm be like, oh, I'm dumb. Who knows?
Well, no, to your point, like it needs to be intuitive. So
yeah,
there's a redesign there.
This is Reggie. The interpreter is saying the sounds are still muffled. So it might be a technology issue or owl, but
We'll be wrapping this up shortly.
okay.
Really is hard to hear Luke in particular.
It was hard to hear you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anything else? Next meeting date?
So we have that set.
Yes. January 14th. 8:30 a.m. to noon.
Oh, 8:30. And are the times different because the actuary will be here?
Yeah, so the hope is that the actuary is going to be presenting his report. I think that'll take about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. We want to give ample time for you all to ask as many questions as you need, because the intent is we would like you to vote within that session, because statutorily, the vote has to be taken before February 1st on whether or not benefits are starting on time. So we want to make sure you have ample time to get all the information you need to make that vote in that session, or to reschedule one within that next 2 weeks, because it has to, like that, to be completed by 2/1.
And when, this is Maria Fox, when we're expecting a copy of the report in advance around mid-December, did you say?
Yeah, we're looking for the finalized report in December, and then we'll make it public on our website and send it to the authorities separately as well.
Perfect. That was going to be my follow-up question, was when can the members of the public also get it? So it'll be the same time. It'll be circulated to us by email and then posted on the website. Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else? You'll send out the slides we shared today and the data that you gave us first thing.
Yeah, we'll make sure the data is in the notes, and we will send out the slide deck.
And I think the statute, this is Reggie, I think the statute, I heard a question about sending the part of the statute that talks about all of the data that needs to be sent. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so if anyone has part of item number 4, any other information, if when you see that list of data and you want to add to that, just email these guys or Maria or myself separately. Everyone happy? Do I have a motion, Jay, to adjourn?
Sure, move adjournment.
Second, Jenny Tilden Flood.
Second. Hey, Sam, you did an excellent job today.
Thank you, David. I didn't
Thank
want
you.
to, I'm trying to make Maria proud.
Thank you. You did awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you all.
Thank you again.
Thank you.